back?
Yep.
Feel good to be getting her again?
Oh, definitely. She's back. Yes, the GTO is back in my garage, and right off the bat, I have to do some maintenance. See, even the newest of these cars is now 18 years old, and for the past couple of years, my headliner has started to sag. And when I picked the car up from Joe's this year, about a month ago, and was driving it home, the headliner was resting on my head. So enough is enough. It's time to finally get it repaired. I'm going to show you the process of getting the headliner out of the car. It's not that hard. There are some steps involved. You got to take a lot of trim pieces out, but I'll show you every step along the way. And while I'm doing that, I'm also going to make an upgrade. My rear view mirror is also 18 years old, and if you can see in there, it's starting to delaminate around the edges, and that's not really a look that I want. And I have always wanted to have more functionality out of the car. I have 3 cars now and 2 garage door openers. So I'm always having to pass one garage door opener between the GTO and my Canyon, and I'm getting tired of that. I'd much rather just have it built into the car. So I'm going to also be putting in an upgraded mirror, and if you have a 2006 GTO, wiring it is not as complicated as you might think. So this is what I bought as a replacement. This is a mirror made by a company called Gentex. They make a lot of different versions of rear view mirror that you can purchase. The one I purchased has got an auto dimming function on it, and then it's got these buttons on the bottom. This is HomeLink. So you know how a lot of cars come with a factory garage door opener installed? Usually it's buttons on the mirror, sometimes it's buttons on a sun visor or something. That's what this is. This is the connection, and there's also other wires in the kit that you'll see later on. But this is not going to be that bad to install. So I'm going to get started by getting the car parked in a position where I can open it up, start getting all the interior bits out, and I'll show you how to get this headliner out. Okay, let me get started with the things that I've taken out already. So right now I've taken out the sun visors and then the clips that hold them in. So there are 6 of these T15 Torx screws to take out. There are 2 in each sun visor, and then there's 1 in each retaining clip. And then you have this connection that you have to disconnect. This comes out a long way. It's tucked in there pretty deep. And you can see that right here. This is pulled out quite a ways. It's tucked up in there, but you have to get it this far out because you might be able to see there is actually a little tab right there to retain the connection. So you have to lift up on the other side to get past that little tab there so you can get this disconnected. So now that that's out, the rear view mirror is also out. This is not held in with any kind of a screw from the factory. It's actually held in the same way that the hood struts are held in. You've got this C-clip bracket. What you have to do is get a screwdriver underneath at least one corner of it, and you pry it up, and then the mirror will slide right up and off. So now that I've got that out, I will start taking off all of the roof trim and everything so we can get the headliner out. So unfortunately, to get the headliner out, you have to start by taking this piece off that goes along the lower part of the door. Now I've shown how to take this off before, so I'm just going to show you old footage from the battery relocation episode. There's a top trim piece you got to use a tool to remove and get that off, and then there's 4 T25 Torx screws in here. Then there's also this bolt right here for the seat belt. That also has to come out to get the rocker panel piece out. But it also attaches to this piece of the seat covering for the seat frame. It snaps into 2 places right here. You have to either bring that out at the same time or very carefully reach your fingers underneath and push little fingers together so you can push those 2 tabs up to get that out first, and then you can take that out. Otherwise you'll break them, and then there's nothing holding that piece of the seat covering to this anymore, and it'll rattle. That allows you to then take this back panel out, which again I showed in the battery relocation episode before. There's 2 T25 screws back there that hold it, and then there's another one down here under this speaker. And once those are out, it's just a bunch of snap tabs along the top ridge here below the window. And then you just pull it out to release that. You have to take these off in order to expose the 2 screws on the bottom of this piece. This is the piece that covers up where the seatbelt goes in and out. So you've got 2 Phillips head screws right there. There's another one there that is covered with a little cap. You pull that cap off and then take that out, and then this just comes right out. It does have a couple of snaps. You can see 2 snaps up top here that'll also position it. So those also have to be removed. Then you can take out the ceiling trim. Now the top piece here in the front, that is just held in with snap tabs. So you can just pull that out. And I would start back here where it meets the B pillar and then work your way forward. The last tab is right about parallel to the firewall, and once you get that out, you can carefully slide the whole piece up and away from the dash to get it out. Just take your time and be careful. Don't force it because you don't want to snap any of those plastic fingers off for the snap tabs. The back one is located the same way. It uses snap tabs, but it also has one screw that holds it right down where the back seat would cover it up. So if I flip the camera view 180 here, you can get an idea of what this looks like when it's installed right side up. I'm going to turn the car around so I can get the other side out so I can get this roof liner out. Okay, now that I have all of the trim pieces out, you can see what this looks like under here. There are 4 locations where the roof liner is located by the roof pillars. See these little fingers right here? There's one on each corner. Now, the trick is you have to push up on the roof liner while at the same time trying to disengage this and pull it out. Now, this cardboard is going to be old and stiff. I can't do this with one hand. I'm going to have to put the camera down, but you have to push up and at the same time try to rotate that out, but you don't want to stretch it or crack the cardboard underneath because, like I said, it's going to be old and brittle. If you break it, it's not going to be able to locate this again once you take this off. So I'm going to get this out and then I will show you the wiring that's underneath it. One last thing to do in order to get the roof out is to take this roof light out. Should be a little place back here where you can dislodge the lens, and then there are 2 Phillips head screws underneath this thing. Take those out and this whole assembly should drop down and then the whole roof should come down. Okay, as you can see, the roof liner is now disconnected. Now, there's something else I have to show you here that I couldn't show you before because the ceiling was in place. There are these plastic sort of Velcro tabs that hold the back of the roof. So the important thing is to get them off, you have to get your fingers up underneath the roof liner and you have to get your fingers on these things and push down on them to detach them. If you just try to pull the roof down, they'll rip right off of the cardboard and then you are SOL. You have no way to hold the roof up in the back afterwards. So just make sure you get your fingers on these little square pieces before you start pushing down. You can see this one detached itself from this bar that goes across the roof, so I'll have to put that back in. But these are what hold the back of the roof on. Don't rip them off or you're SOL. Now, all of the wiring goes through the insulation on the roof. There is a connector down here right behind the seat belt on the B pillar. That is what it contains, all the wiring. It should just have a little push tab. So I'll remove that and then I will see if I can get the headliner out without having to take the door off the car. Hopefully I can wiggle it forward and kind of get it on an angle and get it out of here. Okay, the roof liner is out. I didn't have to remove the seat, just had to move the shifter around a couple of times and slowly rotate it around the shifter and the door pillar, but I managed to get it out. So now I can show you what is going to be the key to installing this new mirror. It's this wiring tucked in right here. This is a 2006 GTO exclusive. It's this connector right here. In Australia, Holden's in 2006 got an auto dimming rear view mirror. So there's 3 wires going to this thing. What we've got is a pink wire, which is 12 volt key on power. There is a black wire, that's a ground. And then this green one is tied into the backup lights, because their thinking was if you throw the car in reverse, the mirror should not be dimmed, you should be getting full intensity. So that is just there to trigger and deactivate the dimming when the backup lights come on. So in order to make this work on my car, it's really a simple process. What I need is 3 different wire inputs for the new mirror. What I need is a 12-volt key on source, got that. I need a ground, got that. And then I need a battery positive, which is battery all the time. That is sitting right here in one of these wires. And if I remember correctly, it is this orange with green stripe wire. I'm going to plug the harness back in and I'm going to verify that. But all I need to do is tie that wire into the green wire going here, and then I should have all the power I need to run this new mirror. So I'm going to plug this back in, we'll get out the voltmeter, and I will check and see if I've really got a constant 12 volts going to that wire. Okay, I've got my test probe plugged into the connector with the orange green stripe. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to ground the other end of my test probe here, and we'll see if we got power. Yep, so that is battery positive. So all I need to do is tie that wire into the green wire going to that connector, and I will have all the power I need for my new mirror. Okay, the wiring is now completed. So what I did is I ran a new wire into this orange with green. I just soldered it underneath there and put a shrink on it, and it's just taped together to hold it. And it's running down through this sticker and then right over to here. I cut the green clean, so this is the half that is no longer doing anything. And then same thing here, soldered it, put a heat shrink on it and taped it up to hold it. This is all held down with hot glue, and it's to keep everything from rattling. I don't want to break that glue because I don't want to have to reapply it. So I've left everything else intact. Now I finished the wiring down here as well. You can see I cut the end off the harness that came with the mirror, made it shorter, and then I just attached it to all the wires here, did the same thing, hot soldered, and then it's zip tied back there to hold it. So this will have plenty of room to move. So this tail that comes off the mirror goes way up. It will go up in behind here. And by the way, there's actually a little recess built into the headliner right here. See how my finger goes in? So there's a little recess right there for the wire to go up. So it'll go back in there, and I'll just have to pull it down a little bit to get the connector out. But this will have plenty of room to travel and get up here, and it'll naturally slide up under here, so it shouldn't rattle. I'm gonna plug the harness back in, turn the key on, and I'm just gonna see if the mirror powers up. Okay, the key is now on, so I'm just gonna push this button, see if anything turns on. Okay, the buttons for the door open function are working. This, I think, is the auto dimming function. This, maybe I gotta hold the button or something. I'll have to reread the instructions. Okay, well, it turns out I'm gonna be done for the night because while the pins are all on the roof part of the harness, the 2 pins I need are not coming up to this connector right here. They are actually empty. Don't know if you'll be able to see that or not. So I can't get the key on 12 volt power up here right now. I'm going to have to go into my harness and run a wire up and add those pins. But if you wanted to do this on an 05 or an 04 GTO, you'd have to do that anyway. So now I get to show you how to do that for yourself. Okay, I am now done adding a new pink wire that I will connect to this harness. I haven't put the pin in yet. That's the next step. So show you where I got this wire from. So you've got this loom that runs along the floor right here, right? There's a wire that goes, there's a whole section of the wiring that goes under the seat right there. You can see that. There's one pink wire in there. That pink wire powers the mirror controls over on the driver's door. And that's actually the wire you want to use because it's tied into the fuse for the mirror, so then the mirror will also be on the same fuse run. So there's 2 pink wires in here. Easiest thing to do is just untape this, and then there's another pink wire that runs along here. All you have to do is start tugging on that one once you've got the tape off and figure out which one here moves. The one that doesn't move is the one that's going over to the mirror. So I just tied into that, spliced it, wrapped it, taped it, and ran it all the way back here. I had to take all this tape off and then retape everything and run it all the way back up to the connector. So I'll get the pin in, but it's going to be a while before I can test it because I just took the roof to the upholsterers today, and it won't be done for 3 or 4 weeks. So this episode will get updated then, and we'll test everything once I've got the roof liner back. Okay, it has been 2 weeks. Got my Michigan Motorsports t-shirt on. The headliner has now been refitted, so let me show you what the new and improved one looks like. So as you can see, it looks like a headliner should again. Really nice margins around all of the ridges and the edges. He did a nice job. Now, the things I found out about having this done: one, my local guy charged me about $200 to do this. Secondly, you cannot reuse the same cloth over again. So this is brand new fabric. Once it's been glued, it's glued. You cannot reuse it. So I've got the car in position. I'm gonna roll this back into the car and I'm gonna hang it up in the air, test the wiring, make sure my new mirror works, and then I will go through the process of putting that back in. Couple little tricks to show you for putting it back on. Okay, as you can see, I've got the headliner loosely set back in there, and by loosely I mean that all 4 corners are tucked underneath the tabs on the roof rails. Now, the hardest ones to get in are the front ones because the material right here is not flexible, so it is tricky to push that in, but you don't want to roll it or fold it. You'll undo all of the glue on the upholstery. You just have to be very, very careful and just ease that corner in. These back corners go in much nicer. Now, as you can see, I already got the wire run up for the mirror. And remember that little notch I showed you right here? It's running right in that notch. So once the vanity mirrors are put back in here, that'll secure it in the front, and then the trim will secure it on the sides. I just got to reposition this wiring and plug it back in to run it back down to this connector. And then I will do the reverse that I did to get all of these trim pillar pieces off. The last section of the headliner that needs to be done is, remember these plastic Velcro tabs back here? These have got to get snapped back in place. I would just use the meat of my hand like this and push up on all 4 pieces. Don't smack them. That's not going to lock the plastic pieces together and it might bend them. You want to slowly push them so they interlock. Okay, the new headliner is in. All of the interior pieces are back in. The mirror has been tested. I've got power going to the garage door buttons and the auto dimming. So all of that is working brilliantly. I actually think they put a little extra padding underneath the fabric for this new headliner because I've noticed that my sun visors now fit a little tight and it was kind of difficult getting the screws in for the dome light. But it's all together, everything fits really nice. Unfortunately, the color is not quite the same as the factory charcoal or anthracite color, whatever you want to call it. But I'm not going to complain too hard. It's hard enough to match a factory color when the car is 18 years old and you've got to work with what you've got. It's good enough, it's close enough, and as good as it fits along the ceiling, like I said, not going to complain. So that's going to do it for this episode. Be more episodes coming in the very near future. Thanks for watching this episode of Josh's Car Corner. See you in the next one.